If you're receiving this transmission, you are the resistance, declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com. Hey guys, Dan Bidondi once again for TruthRadioShow.com and the Dan Bidondi Show on 990 WBOB.com and host on The Cutting Edge on NYSTV.org. I'm a Rhode Island Second Amendment rights advocate here in the state of Rhode Island and once again fighting for our Second Amendment rights. However, we got this man, he's a lawyer here in the state of Rhode Island, named Brian Cunha. He has commercials all over the television, Brian Cunha and Associates. So the Rhode Show on WPRI Channel 12 interviewed this man a month ago to give his interpretation of what the Second Amendment is. So they said, Mr. Cunha, break down what the Second Amendment is. So we're going to show you that video in just a second, and we're going to give you the real interpretation, because there's no interpreting the Second Amendment. It's clear as day. So we're going to tell you what the Second Amendment really is. And if you notice on the show, while you're watching this, not one time did Channel 12 put up the graphic of the Second Amendment. And also, I actually contacted Channel 12. I contacted Channel 12 and the Rhode Show. I even drove down there to have a chance to say, hey, I want a rebuttal or a debate with Mr. Cunha on the Rhode Show. I didn't hear nothing back. Yeah, we got your information, thank you. That's it. You know what I mean? And so now it's time to fight back. So with that 10 views on YouTube, which we're going to get quadruple, thousands of hits on this one. So we're gonna debunk Mr. Cunha and Associates and his whole ordeal with the Second Amendment. So here's Brian Cunha, law associate on the Rhode Show.
Legal Logic, we are chatting about the Second Amendment. Here now to help us understand it better and to break it all down is our friend Brian Cunha of Brian Cunha and Associates.
Good morning, Brad.
Welcome back.
All right, well, welcome back to you too.
Yes, thank you.
For your trip to around the country, I guess.
Yes, from the West Coast back home.
East Coast, right.
It's good to be here back with you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Here on the Rhode Show, of course. Now, the Second Amendment, of course, the right to bear arms, historically speaking, I was reading, ratified in December of 1791.
Correct.
So we're going, way back, the end of the 18th century.
More than 200 years, correct. Yes.
From a legal perspective and in general,
yes,
what do we really need to know, and where does the confusion within this amendment really stem from?
Yeah, there is a lot of confusion. Right now it's in the news, of course, because of all the terrible things that are happening around the country. People are saying the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment really arose out of fear of a federal army taking over the states. Okay, right. So the Second Amendment is basically one sentence. A well-regulated militia is necessary to secure the freedom of the states. Therefore, the individual's right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so it's a one sentence. And the reason for it, historically, was that there was no right of an individual to have a weapon. It was for militias. Our modern-day National Guard is what it was. And the federal government and the founders were concerned that the federal government might usurp the rights of the states. That was the reason until 2008.
Right.
2008 the Heller decision came out, which is the United States Supreme Court decision, that said not only do states have the rights to arm the National Guard, but individuals also have the right to have a weapon or a gun.
And Americans are passionate. We love this country, and people are passionate about many things, including this. So when it comes to this discussion,
what's greatly misunderstood,
right,
is that it isn't an absolute right to have a gun. There are reasons. The government, and even the Heller decision said, the government has the right to pass reasonable regulations with respect to guns. Okay?
So it can get a little murky in terms
of
the interpretation.
And that's the misunderstanding. Everybody says, I have the right to have a gun. I don't care if it's an M16 or a machine gun or anything. No, that's not the law. That is not the Constitution. There's no constitutional right necessarily to have that. States have the right to regulate them for people that are mentally ill, for people that have, for the type and size of the guns. The type of guns. I mean, let's face it. In 1791, the gun that the guy had over the mantle was the same gun that he brought out to fight whatever. Today, the guns that the military has are very different than the gun that someone uses to go and shoot rabbits.
Certainly, with regard to this, dialogue is key.
It really is key, and it's really important for people to understand that this right is not exclusive. It's not over. The states do have the right to regulate. Part of the problem is that some states have very good regulations. Some states don't. Massachusetts has a strong one. Rhode Island has a strong one. But if you go down to some of the southern states, very little regulation.
Well, thanks for breaking it all down for us,
right.
Brian. Always a pleasure to welcome you to the Rhode Show. For more.
Okay, so it looks like Brian Cunha needs to go back to law school, and him and the Rhode Show certainly need to learn the Constitution, because at no time did you notice that they never put this graphic up on the screen. So let's read what the Second Amendment says and see what it means. The Second Amendment clearly states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I want to state right now, the Second Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is composed of the first 10 amendments. Not all of them, just the first 10. In other words, they're set in stone. Government can't touch them with a 10-foot pole because they're made to keep the power delegated to the people as the Constitution stated. Now, James Madison, the author of the Second Amendment, which was ratified in 1791 in December, he declared what these things are. Okay, so the Second Amendment, where Mr. Cunha quickly throws in there, it's for the National Guard. No, it's not the National Guard. The National Guard didn't come along to maybe 150 years after this was ratified. It's certainly not the military or the police, because James Madison even defined who the militia was. He said it's composed of the people. Not the military, not the police, not the government, the people, plain and simple. And a well-regulated meant a well-organized. It doesn't mean it's controlled by city, state, or government. No. And this is right from James Madison's mouth. Okay, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if it's just for the National Guard and militia, who are the people? Why would it say the right of the people if it's just for militia members? And anywhere in here, do you see that it says the states have a right to delegate what kind of firearms you should and shouldn't have? No. It's simply meant to keep the government in check, the people in power. To say that you can ratify this, or to say that the government or state has authority to declare what you can and cannot own, is like saying the prisoners in the ACI have a right to override and delegate what the rules of the water are. You can't, because this is meant to keep the people in power over our own government. So who are the people if it's just for the National Guard? So a well-regulated militia, this is by James Madison, it's a well-organized militia composed of the people. And again, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Do you see anywhere at all that says certain weapons like muskets? And there were rapid-fire guns back then. They were very powerful guns back then. People need to learn the history. So now you go on to say, well, the states laws and everything. All right, let's go to Rhode Island State Constitution. Okay, anybody can look this up. And if you go down, okay, into Article 1, all the way down here to Section 22, and he says, it's just for the National Guard, right? But then he's talking about the states have a right to do this and that, whatever. All right, but Article 1, Section 2 in the Rhode Island State Constitution, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Do you see National Guard or militia or anything like that? No. The right of the people, plain and simple. Not the police or the military, the people, okay, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Plain and simple. It shall not be infringed. You can't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't need to go to 8 years of law school or 12 years, whatever you went, to know this, okay? You don't need to be a lawyer to figure this out. This is the Rhode Island State Constitution, clear as day, and if you want definitions on these things, you go to the Founding Fathers themselves, who explicitly stated that the Bill of Rights are unalienable rights. In other words, you can't touch them. Sure, you could change the 11th Amendment, the 12th Amendment, add another amendment to what we already have, but the first 10 are part of unalienable rights, the Bill of Rights, that cannot be touched with a 10-foot pole by state or federal government at all. It's delegated to the people. It's meant to keep the people in power, not the military or the police. Because what's going on now is because we have tyrants in our government who fear because the American people, the American gun owners, outnumber and outgun any and all standing armies on the planet, even our own. We outnumber and outgun all our military and police combined, and we outnumber and outgun that every standing army on the planet combined. That's why they fear us, because that is the formula of a free state. When the people have more firearms, and George Washington and many of the founding fathers stated that the people should always have sufficient firearms, just as much as the military or the police. This way, it keeps them held accountable. It keeps the people in power. So that's what the Second Amendment means. The unalienable rights, plain and simple. And for the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I don't know what part of this people do not understand. It's the Rhode Island and state constitution right here. This is clear as day, folks. Article 1, Section 22, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And Mr. Cunha, you need to go back to law school. You really do. And I've challenged these people to get on the air to rebut this or challenge him to a debate. And of course, they would never do that because they think he's the legal expert of the state of Rhode Island. And everybody's seen his goofy commercials all over the television. And this is ridiculous, folks, when it's clear as day. It really is. A kid can understand this. And before we go, if you do your homework right and know your history, in the state of Rhode Island, it was required that every male had to be armed at all times, carry the firearms with them at all times. They were called Minutemen. And if you actually do the research what Minutemen were, they were civilian colonists who independently organized to form a well-prepared militia. Do you see military, join the military or the National Guards or anything like that? No. They were, again, Minutemen were the militias. The people were the militias. These are people, not National Guards and military. They were self-training weaponry, tactics, and military strategies from the American colonist partisan militias during the American Revolution. So either way, whatever route you want to go down, Mr. Cunha, you just badly put your foot in your mouth and been massively squashed because you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And sure, you could go brag about your law degree, but you need to go back to law school. Because just watching you on the video, you could tell you had no idea what the hell you were talking about. So did the host on the Rhode Show. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. And I'll gladly come on a Rhode Show, have a debate or a rebuttal with any of you, and all of you against me, I don't care. Because you guys have no clue what the hell you're talking about. This is what the Second Amendment means, plain and simple. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. As long as people like me are alive over our dead bodies, the Second Amendment is going anywhere. Plain and simple. We, the people in this country, we're more armed and have more firepower and manpower than any and all standing armies combined on the planet. So who in the hell is going to come take our firearms? You're going to start another war. And again, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And that's by a real lawyer, Edmund Burke. Again, he said, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. So don't try what the British failed at, because you are not taking our Second Amendment. You will not disarm the American people. Plain and simple. So it's Dan Bidondi fighting for the Second Amendment here in Rhode Island and a host for TruthRadioShow.com. God bless. And you are the resistance. Declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com.